and it's a beautiful memento that we will present to you on Tuesday. I ask unanimous consent that the Commerce Committee be discharged from further action on H.R. 1848.
The clerk will report.
H.R. 1848, an act to ensure that the Federal Aviation Administration advances the safety of small airplanes and so forth and for other purposes.
Without objection, the committee is discharged and the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I further ask that the substitute amendment, which is at the desk, and it is the text of S. 1072, as reported by the Commerce Committee, be agreed to. The bill is amended to be read a third time and passed, and the motion reconsidered be laid on the table with no intervening action or debate.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent the Senate proceed to H.R. 3095.
The clerk will report.
H.R. 3095, an act to ensure that any new or revised requirement providing for the screening, testing, or treatment of individuals operating commercial motor vehicles for sleep disorders is adopted pursuant to a rulemaking proceeding and for other purposes.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask the bill be read three times passed. Motion we consider be made and laid on the table with no intervening action or debate.
Without objection.
I ask consent the Senate proceed to calendar number 200.
The clerk will report.
Calendar number 200, S.Res. 227, to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the heroic rescue of Danish Jews during the Second World War by the Danish people.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, the motion reconsidered be considered made and laid on the table. There be no intervening action or debate.
Without objection.
I ask consent the Senate proceed to calendar number 201.
The clerk will report.
Calendar number 201, S.Res. 213, expressing support for the free and peaceful exercise of representative democracy in Venezuela and condemning violence and intimidation against the country's political opposition.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask the committee report a substitute amendment to the resolution be agreed to. The resolution is amended be agreed to. The amendment to the preamble be agreed to. The preamble as amended be agreed to. And the committee report amendment to the title be agreed to. And the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid on the table with no intervening action or debate.
Without objection.
I ask that we now proceed to S.Res. 265.
The clerk will report.
S.Res. 265, expressing support for the individuals impacted by the senseless attack at the Washington Navy Yard and commending and thanking members of the military, law enforcement officers, first responders, and civil servants for their courage and professionalism.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, motion reconsider be laid on the table with no intervening action or debate.
Without objection.
I'm sorry. I was in some other place for a minute or two. I ask unanimous consent the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, the motion reconsider be laid on the table with no intervening action or debate.
Without objection.
There are two bills at the desk due for the first reading, I'm told.
The clerk will read the titles of the bill for the first time.
H.R. 3230, an act making continuing appropriations during a government shutdown to provide pay and allowances to members of the reserve components of the armed forces who perform inactive duty training during such period. H.J. Res. 72, making continuing appropriations for veterans' benefits for fiscal year 2014 and for other purposes.
I now ask for second reading, but I object to my own request to both of these measures.
Objection is heard.
Note the absence of quorum.
The bills will be read for the second time on the next legislative day.
Oh, yeah, sure. I ask unanimous consent the Senate proceed to S.Res. 266.
The clerk will report.
S.Res. 266, designating the week of October 7th through 13th, 2013 as National Chess Week.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
As unanimous consent, the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, the motion to reconsider be laid on the table with no intervening action or debate.
Without objection.
I now ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business day, adjourn until noon tomorrow, 12 o'clock p.m., October 5th, and that following the prayer and the pledge, the morning hour be deemed expired, the journal of proceedings be approved to date. The time for the two leaders be reserved for use later in the day, and that following any leader remarks, the Senate be in a period of morning business for debate only until 4 p.m. with senators permitted to speak for up to 10 minutes each.
Without objection.
Madam President, if there's no further business to come before the Senate, ask that it adjourn under the previous order.
The Senate stands adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow.
And that wraps up this Senate session for this Friday.